Welcome to Canoe Live. I'm Brian Dunstan. As offensive as this may sound, it's a distinct possibility, but Karla Homolka is eligible to seek a pardon. She could apply for pardon on July 5th. After all, she is eligible under the current guidelines, but that could all change if Parliament gets its act together in time. That's our in-depth topic this evening. That's right. One of the most notorious killers in Canadian history is reportedly planning to apply for pardon next month. Homolka was released from prison in 2005 after serving time for manslaughter. She plea bargained her sentence down to 12 years in exchange for testimony against then-husband Paul Bernardo. Tapes later surfaced to show Homolka played a more active role in the killing of the girls. She could beat out proposed legislation that would deny pardons to the most serious offenders. The bill is currently before Parliament, but is in danger of not getting passed before the summer recess. The bill gained momentum when it was revealed earlier this year that sex offender Graham James, the disgraced former hockey coach, received a pardon 3 years ago. The bill was quickly reintroduced in early May after Prime Minister Harper expressed outrage that pardons are basically rubber-stamped. Quoting, "The law will allow Karla Homolka to apply for a pardon this year. In fact, more than 99% of pardon applications that reach the adjudication stage are granted." Lawyer Dewey Wynn is director of Pardon Granted Canada. He's on the phone to talk about the ramifications of this proposed legislation. Thanks for joining us today, Dewey. Let's get right to the questions. The government is in the midst of changing the pardon bill, basically stiffening the process of getting pardoned. What was your initial reaction on hearing this?
My initial reaction was, most of our clients are, not violent offenders, and it's unfortunate that some of these hardworking blue-collar individuals that would be eligible for pardon soon won't be eligible for pardon anymore. However, I do believe that, violent offenders like Karla Homolka shouldn't be eligible for a pardon, but unfortunately, she was only convicted of manslaughter. And because of that reason, she is eligible on July 5th. But even if Vic Sayes does make the changes and the government does agree to it, she will be eligible for another 5 years. So, is the system to blame, or is it the lawyers that, granted that plea bargain to blame?
Well, Dewey, let me get this straight. Under the way you understand the changes that are proposed for this bill, Karla Homolka will still be eligible for pardon after the changes are made?
Exactly. What I understand is for people that are convicted with a sexual offense against a minor, they will be permanently ineligible, but she was convicted of manslaughter only. So if the proposed changes are going to be for indictable offenses, they want to make it for a 10-year wait. So if they do change it in another 5 years, it will be 10 years after she completed her sentence. Wow.
Well, do you see the changes to this bill as a knee-jerk reaction to the couple of high-profile stories out there? That is the Homolka story and the Graham James story?
Exactly, because if we knew when she was convicted that she will eventually be eligible for pardon 5 years after she finished her sentence. And now, a month before she's eligible, everybody is, the public is outraged.
Well, Dewey, I want to thank you for taking the time to edify us on this issue. We're going to have more on this now with some columnist, Christina Blizzard. Christina, thanks for joining us. And I got to get right to that first question that Dewey answered. Is this, or the last question that Dewey answered, is this a knee-jerk reaction to the two high-profile stories that are out there involving pardons? I don't think it's a knee-jerk. I think that this issue of pardons has been around for a long time, and it comes up every time there's a high-profile offender such as this who gets a pardon, because they are routinely rubber-stamped. Thousands and thousands of pardons are given every year, and you know what? I mean, most people, if a kid makes a mistake and they're pardoned for some white-collar offense, I'm all for that. You don't want to see them living, a life sort of tainted forever. Right. But come on, there are some people who should not ever be pardoned. Well, regardless of whatever the impetus is for this legislation, the government is trying to ram this through the House before recess, which is tomorrow. Right. Is there any danger of, running a bill like this through and missing something? Well, this was what Michael Ignatieff was talking about today. He said, oh, yes, we're all in favor of it. And then he said, oh, but hold on, we want to have a look at it just to make sure we haven't made any mistakes. You know what? They know what they need to do. Let's just do it. It is outrageous, and it is an offense to the families of Kristen French and Leslie Mahaffey to grant a pardon to Karla Homolka at this point, even if they have to come up with
this one bill that halts a pardon for Karla Homolka, it would be so offensive to all Canadians, but particularly to, you know, the families of these the women who were so brutally murdered. It's outrageous.
Well, given that they are trying to get this legislation passed fairly quickly, what are the chances of this actually getting done by tomorrow?
I would. Given that Ottawa is in such disarray, that we've got the Liberal Party having its own internal squabbles, doesn't seem to know what it wants to do, I would think they're probably 0-0. But if they all come to their senses overnight, I think they're going to realize that there is a huge groundswell of anger about this, and I think they will push it through.
Well, that groundswell, which did create the impetus for this bill, I mean, we are talking about two fairly high-profile stories, the Karla Homolka Bernardo scenario and the Graham James situation.
Right.
Is this a situation where the government is using this as a prop for propping up their own government?
Well, I don't think they're using it as a prop to prop up their government. I think that these may finally be the turning points that actually get changes made to the pardon legislation, which it has been outrageous for a number of years for a number of reasons. If it's the final impetus, well, so be it.
Well, I appreciate your time coming in and talking to us, Christine. Always love to talk to you.
My pleasure.
That was Dewey Wynn from Pardon Granted Canada and Sun columnist Christine Blizzard in studio. So what do you think about the proposed pardon legislation? Parliament trying to ram through this at the last minute, or convicted killers and the sex offenders being eligible for pardon? Post a comment on our blog at blogs.canoe.ca/canoelive.